New Zealander David Reedy has recently retired from his highly successful Harley-Davidson motorcycle dealership in the booming inner Melbourne suburb of Brunswick, itself a multicultural melting pot. Arriving in Australia in the early 70s, David quickly spotted a gap in the market, opting to specialise in the iconic but underrepresented American marque. David's also indulged his love for classic bikes, co-founding the Great Race, an annual event for old Harleys and Indians now in its 27th year. In that period of time, you've been here a long time now, what have you seen in terms of the changes to Australia in that period?
Well, it's been dramatic. I was always working in Brunswick, of course, and so Brunswick's always been at the centre of immigration and different the population changing. Of course, in the late 40s and early 50s, you had the Italians and the Greeks, and then in the 80s, when I started to work in Brunswick, there was strong Turkish population, and then that's changed gradually to larger areas of the Middle East, and now we've got sort of regular young Australians of all nationalities moving in. It's a very hip, very trendy place to live, so dramatic change. And you've got to remember that this area, Bob Hawke was Prime Minister and this was his electorate.
How has that multiculturalism movement here affected you personally?
I think because I've spent so much time in Brunswick, it was here in 1981. It was here in 1991, it was here in 2001, it's always been here. So what a lot of Australians have experienced in the last decade, I feel I've been experiencing for 4 decades. There's been no doubt that the last 4 decades in Australia has made it one of the great places to migrate to. No question about that. Whether it will continue, of course, is another question, and I don't have any answers for that. But yes, for the last 4 decades, it's certainly for me fulfilled everything that any human being could ever want.
Have you seen any kind of shift in the sort of people who come and work here with you at the Harley dealership?
New employees, right through that 40-year period. New employees are generally younger. Generally they would come from the northern suburbs and they would have some sort of migrant background, whether it was their parents or their grandparents, but a relatively close migrant input into their lives.
Do you feel as a migrant, if you like, from New Zealand, that you have empathy for the people who've moved here from other places as well?
Obviously it's a huge challenge for people that are leaving their homeland in distressed circumstances, and one does have great compassion for those people. There's so much of the world in turmoil, there's obviously a limit to how many people we can integrate into our society here in Australia and give credit to the job that we're doing in letting them come in and enjoy a positive life. It is amazing the ability of Western societies to intake large numbers of immigrants and move forward really well. A Western country is bringing in the right number of immigrants that it can properly house and provide for and provide jobs for. They become obviously good customers of a retail establishment like this, and whether they're Muslim or Kiwis or Fijian, or doesn't make much difference.
So how would you view it beyond the positive effect on the community?
Well, probably like I've said, is that we want to be able to comfortably absorb people that have come from other countries in a positive manner, provide them with jobs, provide them with the means to, within reason, fulfil their dreams without unbalancing our economic well-being.
If you had a crystal ball and you look to the next 10 years, we've had the past 10 years as not a bad guide, where do you think you see it going in the next 10 years?
The nice thing to happen would be that the distressing situations that cause a lot of pressure on immigration intake would get resolved, and we could bring people in a more orderly manner. I haven't actually seen any evidence of that happening, but I know that Australians, do have compassion for people coming from super distressing circumstances. Let's look at our infrastructure, our ability to absorb these people properly, educate these people properly, or give them the means to educate themselves before you bring them in.
What do we need to do in Australia to make this whole vision of multiculturalism work?
Well, idealistically, I'd like to see the focus away from the growth that it can provide to the economy and more into serious integration of these people as they arrive, a genuine attempt, to absorb them into our population, make sure that the correct infrastructure is there, and that they have a positive experience, and that they have a positive contribution to our country as a whole.